Hello, this is Paranormal Girl, and today I'm going to talk about the very frightening shadow people. So, who are the shadow people? Shadow people are dark human shapes typically seen moving at night, a most common form of ghosts that people witness. Shadow people often flee in the presence of people in physical bodies, especially if they realize they have been detected, and are often viewed out of the corner of one's eye or peripheral vision. Shadow people are also known as dark shadows or shadow ghosts, and probably are the most misunderstood of ghost entities. Shadow is an indication of spiritual condition. It is the absence of light. Light in spirituality denotes truth, and darkness would indicate a lack of knowing or fear. In other words, shadow people are disembodied humans who are lost, having not gone forward in life's journey by refusing to go toward the light that will carry them fully into the next realm after death of the physical body. Missing this transition, ghosts remain here with those of us on earth in a temporary state of limbo, so to speak. Shadow ghosts are not devils, demons, or aliens, as some want to theorize, but people. How would they look to us is most likely due to two factors: the inner condition, which is the state of the soul, and how we're able to perceive them in the visible spectrum. Because we fear darkness, many of us have come to believe that shadow people have ill intentions and thus are evil. However, most shadow people are not negative in nature and are simply lost in need of guidance to understand their condition. Shadow people have been recorded in video as both adults and children, male and female, but often as people reliving their former lives, being trapped by the mind and remaining as earthbound spirits. Different shadow forms have been witnessed of shadow people: big, small, with and without hats, hooded, and even as black mists of vapor or ectoplasm. Oftentimes, shadow people have been seen beside people's beds, most likely attempting to get a message to a loved one, or possibly as a plea for help. Shadow people are most often seen during the evening, preferring to hide under the cover of darkness, and perhaps this is why. Many shadow people have been observed peeking around corners. If a person has decided to remain as an earthbound disincarnate, having not gone into the light upon their passing from the physical world, then it makes sense that they would continue to try and remain aloof by hiding in the shadows or the darkness. Shadow people are not bound by walls or physical obstacles, as they may choose to move through them. Strangely, some shadow people seem to believe that they have to go around physical objects and perhaps have not discovered that they can pass through things. The makeup of shadow people appeared to be a dense, light, impenetrable, black, static mass of spirit. Flashlights reportedly will not shine through shadow people, and reports have been given of the shadow person becoming extremely frightened by the flashlight, or possibly finding out that they were visible to those of us who are fortunate enough to see them. Interestingly, some shadow people have been described as having red eyes. In some cases of a haunting, it was found that evil-appearing shadow ghosts purposely altered their appearance to look non-human in order to frighten people. When the ghosts were confronted, horns and red eyes did not remain after the ghosts knew that they were no longer feared and being communicated with. This was especially true when conversations with the ghosts led to a spirit rescue. Also of note, shadow ghosts of animals have also been reported. Shadow people appear to be in a state of suffering, sometimes intense, fearing retribution or confrontation with others who they have wronged in life, or the idea of being condemned to an everlasting hell as punishment for past sins. It would seem to some church doctrines have created people who wish to hide in the shadows, believing they have an uncertain future that could include intense suffering. Other shadow people hang around due to attachments to people, places and things, perhaps not realizing their body has died. In cases of spirit rescue, it's been reported that many a ghost, upon understanding there is a better life awaiting, has willingly moved unto the light to be with the loved ones who were trying to reach them all along. It seems that sometimes shadow people just need our help in moving on beyond the physical world, which is their past. We feel it wise to note that some shadow people do have ill intent, however, unwillingly have chosen to remain earthbound, even unto attaching to or perhaps possessing another person. They are usually very adept at making their presence known, manipulating the environment and even altering their appearance. These mean-spirited, negative people still can be helped and do not fully understand that if they choose to move on unto the light, it will mean a healthier and happier existence for them. The personalities of shadow people, as mentioned previously, can vary from nice to nasty. Not any different from people who you will meet that are still in bodies. When a person passes, their mental and physical condition will not change until they move into the light with loved ones, as a life review or cleansing process occurs. After the life review, the spirit becomes clean, as misthinking is purged and truth and understanding is gained. Shadow people are therefore unclean spirits and retain their emotional and physical baggage, so to speak. This will manifest as a distinct personality, mentality, ailment, pain, appearance, etc., and even odour at times. Shadow people simply seem trapped in their former state and do not appear to advance in age, intellect, or any aspect of their condition until they choose to turn to loved ones who are with them, who are attempting to bring them forward unto the light and life. And let's have a look at types of shadow people. Types of shadow people. There are different types of shadow people. Shadow ghosts, different beings. Shadow people are likely the most common description given to ghosts by people. Theories abound by the different types of shadow people. Some believe that they can be classified into different types of beings, such as aliens, demons, disembodied people, animals, and even unknown monsters. While it would seem there are different types of shadow people, perhaps the descriptions differ for several reasons. Through ghost investigation of shadow people, our findings concluded that shadows of different types are either human or animal in nature. The shadowed forms seem to also differ due to the size of the person or animal. Incomplete forms such as hands or feet missing were likely more of the result of an incomplete manifestation or movement. If the shadow person is negative, traumatic, or ill-willed, the form often is seen as a heavier, darker mass. Ill-willed spectres appear more diabolical, controlling, and adept at altering appearances to seem more ominous. Manipulating others through fear, they often cause people to feel dread, sparking great fear in those whom they wish to attack. Still, most shadow people are not ill-willed or pose a threat. Often, they are deceased loved ones who either want to observe, watch over us, or even seek our help so they can resolve past issues. When shadow ghosts become visible to the human eye, it would seem that one of the first forms they may notice is a mist. This would explain why some shadow ghosts appear in a fog-like manner and why the end of the limbs might be incomplete. As the entity comes further into view, the black mass will begin to take on the shape of a person or animal form. Still, details of the shadow have not yet emerged, so eyes might not be seen, etc. If the manifestation continues, the shadow person will sometimes become visible as a see-through apparition. A seasoned ghost investigator and a friend of mine recently witnessed a complete apparition appear before her eyes. The shadow person slowly became transparent and coloured in form. Soon she knew she was looking at a man who had formerly worked at a coal mine where she now resides. Her account is highly credible and fantastic confirmation of the stages of how ghosts might fully become visible to us. It seems like a mistake for us to classify shadow people into types. However, we cannot rule out the possibility that other entities might look like shadow people. There could be other plausible explanations for shadows that look like people, such as astral travellers of the earthly realm, people who purposely practice having out-of-body experiences in order to become a temporary disembodied human spirit. Physically created through thought form, ghosts known as tulpas, or if at times we appear to others elsewhere while asleep. We could be in two places at once, but how can we know for sure? Types of shadow people. For the sake of this article about types of shadow people, I think it's best to share common descriptions of shadowed entities. We'll assume that most of them are indeed ghosts. Maybe just their appearances differ. Human-shaped shadow people. This type of shadow person is self-explanatory and most common seen by witnesses. The only differences in description might be due to how well the ghost has become visible, coupled with the mental condition of the disembodied person. Shadow ghosts have been described as sometimes missing facial features, details of clothing, hair, or outer extremities such as hands, feet, etc. The shadowed mass can be transparent, but also has been described as dark, black, static. Shadow people are often thought to be male in appearance, although children and women have been described in accounts. Shadow people move quickly. They are able to disappear into walls, through doors, etc. Many people claim to be able to see shadow people easier through peripheral vision, especially when the shadow is moving, often causing witnesses to feel like they are being watched. Many times shadow people are just afraid of those who see them, and it's common for them to run and hide. There are some ill-willed spectres who attack while in shadow form, sometimes while people are in bed. Black mist, dark ectoplasm, and moving shadows. This is one of the most common shadow people sightings. Many times the shadow person may not keep their shape when moving fast or be seen as a dark mist before becoming fully visible. They are intelligent and tend to frighten people who cannot readily identify them as a human form. Animal-shaped shadow ghosts. Sometimes animals are seen as apparitions or in shadowed form. It's more common to see small animals as low to the ground and move in shadows. Eyewitness accounts of shadow animals are less common than sightings of shadow people. Other types of shadow people. It's not uncommon for people to see a shadow ghost peeking from around a corner. Shadow people typically prefer the cover of darkness. It's likely because they can remain more covert, blending in the shadows. The ghosts of children are smaller and often tend to be more playful. Both adult and child will sometimes peer around corners or from behind objects to see if the coast is clear to move about. Shadow ghosts have also been seen wearing hats, and it's not uncommon for people who are disembodied to still mentally project their image wearing clothing. Apparitions of people attest to this fact, as sightings of see-through ghosts are often described wearing clothes or period dress from their era. Many believe the Hat Man type of ghost can be something otherworldly, but their traits seem to be human. Other strange anomalies associated with shadow ghosts tend to be disturbing to people. Red eyes or horns, for example, make this type of shadow ghost seem demonic in appearance. Our investigations and experiments with such entities revealed them to be ghosts very capable of altering appearances in order to deceive and frighten victims. Just like there are people who frighten us here in the physical world, there are ghosts of people who choose to exhibit the same behavior after their body has expired. So let's have a look at the shadow ghosts. So, who are the shadow ghosts and what are shadow ghosts? Shadow ghosts have been seen by more people than probably any other ghostly form that one can imagine. But what are shadow ghosts? Myths, misinformation concerning shadow beings. Superstitions surround shadow ghost sightings as people tend to believe they are always evil because shadow ghosts are dark in colour or even black. Western society immediately associates them with being negative in nature. As we were taught that the man dressed in white is the good guy, think old westerns here, and the guy wearing black therefore must be the bad guy. From this incorrect assumption, people think that shadow ghosts are always bad. For example, demons or devils, something otherworldly. For example, an extraterrestrial or time traveller, or someone floating about while out of body during sleep or while astral travelling. While some theories about shadow beings are not unworthy concepts towards an explanation, they do not account for the fact that most shadow ghosts seem to be attached to a location and are repeatedly witnessed by more than one person and can even make their presence known during the day while most people are not sleeping. From evidence, we can deduce that shadow ghosts just might be. We believe so as the evidence is overwhelming. Different names for shadow ghosts. Depending who you talk to, shadow ghosts are called different names to describe the same spectres. They're also known as shadow people and dark shadows, shadow beings, shades, dark entities, phantoms, black mists, or black ectoplasms. Some even call them jinn, or the genies, as their description seems similar to the spirits found in Islam and ancient Arabic theology. One thing is for certain, shadow ghosts do not have some similarities that we can discuss that may point to what, or better yet, who they are. Shadow ghost behavior. Shadow ghosts seem to love darkness more than light, as they often use dimness as a cover to hide within. They may appear to us as sneaky, often observing from the shadows or seen peeking out or running into dark corners. Shadow ghosts are typically darker than normal shadows, and light does not usually shine through their black, static form. Sometimes they're seen in human shape, but can also be observed as a black mist or cloud that is moving without recognizable form. Shadow ghosts are usually perceived to be male, yet they have been observed as being female and even as children. Thus their heights vary from quite short to very tall. They've also be seen wearing clothing, hats, especially top hats or fedoras, or even as hooded. We receive reports of shadow ghosts wearing a hood, but this perception can be a misidentification. Sometimes the hooded ghosts end up to be long dark hair of a female ghost, the covering surrounding or shrouding her face. If seen, shadow ghosts' eyes may be reported as dark or red, while the faces of them have been seen as either formless or even pallid. Shadow entities may not easily be recognized as human when they are moving. This may account for many of the black clouds reported by observers. They seem not to have boundaries, as shadowed forms have been observed disappearing through walls or interacting on sites of ruins as if the buildings were still there. The most common place to see a shadow ghost is within a home or building. It would seem that they have been viewed outdoors and within forests. The most important thing we can glean from this is that shadow ghosts prefer the cover of darkness, shadow, as it provides a place to hide. But why do many shadow ghosts hide? Shadow ghosts, unlocking the mystery. After studying shadow ghosts for years, we believe that most shadow ghosts are truly ghosts. People who have died upon their passing did not transition forward and away from the earth plane, but remain behind, interacting with those here. Instead of moving into the light, they found themselves still trapped here due to what could be a variety of reasons. Maybe shadow ghosts do not understand they have died and have unfinished business here to do. Perhaps shadow ghosts are just people who are afraid of eternal punishment, as they were falsely taught this by someone when alive. Shadow ghosts could also be people who are suffering from earthly addictions and need to fulfill their lusts, or people who feel helpless and hopeless, or people who are searching for family or friends, or even people who are trapped in trauma that occurred to them and are still living in the year and day that their bodies died. The reasons could be many when one considers what causes earthbound spirits to stay here among people in physical bodies. So we must consider shadow ghosts as people who are in some form of trauma and need assistance in moving on and continuing their life journey. Just because shadow ghosts are dark or black does not make them negative. Even if they are in some state of trauma, ghosts can be loving, playful, looking for help, and yes, mean-spirited, just like people who have bodies. The demeanor of shadow ghosts will vary, just like personalities of people on Earth differ. So it's important to view ghosts as people who are lacking understanding of their own condition. The ghosts around us could just be family members or friends who have had difficulty in life and are still with us looking for answers. Ghosts that interact with us are simply spirits needing help to get back on track within the spirit world. If shadow ghosts prefer darkness rather than light, then it's most likely due to the darkness or fear within them that they're choosing to conceal. Why would someone do that? Why would a person decide to remain hidden in the shadows and hide from the living? If we think about hiding, we do it so we cannot be found. Being found means that we must be revealed. And if a shadow ghost or person is hiding fears, self-condemnation, guilt, shame, or whatever within, then it's hard to expose oneself to light, to the truth. We fear judgment, ridicule, and emotional trauma, and by doing so put ourselves within our own prison that our mind is powerful enough to create. We create walls to hide behind and effectively judge ourselves more harshly than another could ever do to us. How can we recognize shadow ghosts? People who are around us who need our help? Well, we must first learn to be observant. Many times when people have a feeling of being watched, they could be in the presence of another person hiding in the shadows who is observing them. Shadow ghosts react to and with people. They have been observed playing with each other and with children, often as imaginary friends. Often, shadow ghosts are seen in low light conditions and out of the corner of the eye. Our peripheral vision does not focus and therefore is excellent in detecting movement and may actually be improved in lower light environments. To see a shadow ghost, we must be in a place where one or more are present. We must be patient, and it is best to be looking toward a place of low light, such as a doorway or a window. If a shadow ghost moves past the slightly lighter area, it will be easily be detected during movement. When we take photographs, look for shadows that are not cast properly and seem out of place. often appearing very dark, black, cloud-like, or even as a partial human shape. Lastly, if we sense fear while looking for a shadow ghost, it may not be our own fear. Perhaps we are sensing the fear of the person hiding in the shadows. So be tuned into the environment. I will now speak about the most famous shadow anomaly that people have ever witnessed, and that will be the Hat Man. Among the strange urban legends out there, the Hat Man stands out for being reported with the same consistent description and the inability to discern whether the Hat Man is actually hallucination or some kind of paranormal entity. The Hat Man, sometimes referred to as the Grey Man or the Shadow Man, is an entity that's described as a man wearing a wide-brimmed hat and a long trench coat. In some encounters, the Hat Man is described as wearing a cowboy hat, a fedora, or an older top hat, and sometimes wearing a black cloak, suit, or even a beard. When Hat Man does appear, the witness is usually sleeping in the early morning hours, although users of Ouija boards have been also described as encountering the Hat Man, as well as alleged victims of alien abductions. Regardless of when or what situation the Hat Man appears in, the entity seems to be drawn to, causes or predicts misfortune, bad luck, ill health, or even death. Even stranger is that the Hat Man has been reported to make himself visible to multiple generations of the same family or to a witness's friends and family. Some suggest the Hat Man is actually one or many members of a phenomenon known as the Shadow People, who are entities that appear to be humanoid silhouettes. Although legends of Shadow People have existed for centuries, in modern times the entities are often reported by victims of sleep paralysis, and particularly by methamphetamine users due to sleep deprivation. Initially, shadow people are described as appearing in people's peripheral vision over time, appearing more in full view, despite having no discernible features while these encounters are occurring. The individuals report an accompanying feeling of anxiety and paranoia, and sometimes tactile or auditory hallucinations may occur as well. To see shadow people, it's reported that benzidamine, diphenhydramine, alkyloid, or psilocin can cause the effect, although it's strongly not recommended taking them to find out. However, while there are similarities between the Shadow People and the Hat Man, there is no definite connection between the two, although the Hat Man is often viewed as a separate or individual entity. Others, such as Heidi Hollis, the author of The Hat Man, The True Story of Evil Encounters, suggest that the Hat Man is a demonic entity or a minion of the devil. This belief is very similar to the historical view of the Hat Man and the Shadow People, which argued that such entities were actually shades, the spirit of a dead person from the underworld. To collect and help share people's encounters with the Hat Man, individual Tim Brown began the website The Hat Man Project, which asked visitors to his site, "Have you seen the Hat Man?" According to Brown, the website's creator and administrator and researcher, he has had personal encounters with the Hat Man, which led him to seek out others who had similar experiences. On the site, Brown describes the experience that introduced him to this phenomena, which occurred in 1994 when he was 14. He was staying with his grandmother and great-grandmother at the time. Lying in bed about 2 a.m., Brown describes what he suddenly saw in the hallway. "I saw a tall human-like figure, and the figure looked like that of a man. The man had no distinguishable features whatsoever. I could see no eyes, no nose, mouth, only blackness. He looked like a shadow, only darker, much darker. He had a very wide-brimmed hat and a long trench coat that flowed as he moved. The next day, Brown found out that both his grandmother and great-grandmother had also seen the entity before, although for many years Brown wrote off the incident as his imagination. However, in about 2013, Brown said he heard a program about shadow people on Coast to Coast AM, which showed him that there were many others who had seen the entity, and the Hat Man wasn't a product of his imagination after all. While it can't be said for certain if Brown's encounter was a hoax or real, it does seem to fall in line with the reported qualities of the Hat Man, such as the entity's appearance to different generations of Brown's family, or the accompanying feelings of fear and paranoia, as well as appearing in the early hours of the morning while Brown was trying to sleep. In recent years, the Hat Man has seen a resurgence in popularity through the internet due to the Japanese PlayStation 1 video game LSD Dream Emulator. Aside from the game's psychedelic imagery, which is based on the LSD user's 10-year-old long dream journal, the only enemy in the game is an entity called the Grey Man, which is based on real-life reports of the Hat Man. The Grey Man will randomly appear and silently follow the player, never saying or moving while hovering closer. If the Grey Man touches the player will have their previous dreams erased and will wake up. Other times, the Grey Man will disappear in a flash upon touching the player, or simply float past the player into a wall and disappear. Like most legends, the Hat Man has no clear answer. It can be explained as an hallucination due to the substance abuse, sleep paralysis, and sleep deprivation. However, that doesn't explain why different generations of a family or friends of a witness will report seeing the same entity, or why scientific explanations such as substance abuse will produce the same entity reported by users of Ouija boards. The legend of the Hat Man will likely never go away, and may inspire the new urban legends, such as the Slender Man. So my question to you, have you seen a shadow person? Or, even worse, have you seen the Hat Man? Please leave your comments below.